Hi guys, in this video I'm just going to be drawing She-Hulk, or rather colouring her, using Spectrum Noir markers, I think that's how you say it, and some Copic markers too. And I started just by laying down one flat colour, a lighter colour, which was the LG1 by Spectrum Noir. Now, I didn't actually record me sketching the image for this one, or doing the line art, just because, first of all, I sketched it digitally until I was happy with it, just because I'm so used to working digitally. It means that I can sort of play around with it and edit it a lot more. Compared to when I work with pencil, I make a lot more mistakes and I just don't get the same result. So I definitely need to practice more with my traditional art, especially the initial sketches. And once I'd got the sketch where I wanted it to be, or how I wanted it to look, using Photoshop, I then printed it out, and using a lightbox, I basically traced over the line art using pencil onto this card, which is Xpress blending card, which I think is designed specifically for Copic Markers, or Copic Markers. And then obviously once I'd done that, I used a fine liner or an inking pen just to go around the outside, and I used the Sakura micron, I think they're called. Again, I could be pronouncing all these wrong, but hopefully you know what I mean. So once I'd laid down the flat layers, I went in with an LG3 colour, which is just a slightly darker shade of green, and I was using this almost as like a cell shading technique, just getting in the areas where I wanted it to be darker. I'm imagining the light is coming from the upper right hand side as we're looking at it here. And what I did was, once I'd laid in these darker bits, I actually keep swapping back to the LG1 and sort of filling it in between the two colours, or between the two shades, just so that it blends them together a little bit. And you'll see me do that quite a lot throughout. And in fact, with this bit here, I actually went in with an LG2, and the reason I've done this is because I think it has a slightly more yellow tint to it, but it blends nicely with these, and I think the sort of yellowy green tint looks quite good just on the edges of the bits that aren't in shadow. But it's quite hard to see on the camera, but it is more of like a lime green, and it just makes the skin a little bit more interesting. So that was the LG1, LG2 and LG3. And now I'm going in, I think this one is the LG5. Same process again. Some people would maybe lay in the flats and then just go straight for the darkest colour if they know what they're doing. I'm still really new to using these markers. I still find them really difficult to use, it takes me ages. So I prefer to start with my lightest colour or my lightest shade and just build them up layer by layer until I've got the effect that I liked. And I actually really liked it at the stage it's at now anyway, just going as far as LG5. But I decided just to darken it a little bit more, so I think at some point I add in a JG4, again Spectrum Noir, but you'll see that soon. So I'm just detailing the face a little bit. Sometimes I use the same shade I've already used, for example JG3 over JG3 again once it's dried will give it a slightly darker effect, but it's a little bit more subtle, and I found that worked quite well on the face. So here it is where I'm going over with the, I think it's a JG4. You can see it's a lot darker, slightly different green. But then I swap back to the LG5 again that we previously used, and I'm just blending them together a little bit. So all I'm doing now is just refining it a little bit and adding in some shadows, some drop shadows, like from the hair, from the face, the chin, and anywhere else I think we'll have a little bit of shadow. You might notice I had some green on the lips before I even started filming. The reason for that is I actually went over the lips with a green pencil colour at first before using my markers, just because I need quite a bit of precision to get the lips to look right, and I don't personally have that much precision with the markers, so I've gone over it using pencil first, and then when I go over that with a marker it's already a different colour. I'm still playing around with that effect, but it seems to work fine. And for the eye I'm just using a parrot green, and I think this one is a prismacolor marker. I just had a set of these and I just wanted to try out a different green, but to be honest any would have done for the eyes because there's such a small area on this, and then I just darken them up with a darker green just along the top for a little bit of shading. And what really brings the eyes to life is using a little bit of white, so I've just got a little gel pen here. I think this is a jelly roll pen. I've seen loads of YouTubers use them, so I decided to buy myself a pack and try them, and they seem really good. So now I'm taking the LG5, JG4 and JG7, although the JG7 and JG4 seem to be almost identical, so I probably could have used either. And I'm just using the same techniques as I've used on the body, but on the hair. which I want it to be a little bit darker overall, but again I'm just layering it bit by bit until I've got the desired effect. I do find it quite difficult using markers to draw hair. I usually find I make it a little bit too messy, but this one actually did turn out okay. So I've just got a strip along the top where it's not as dark with a bit more highlights, and then the bottom, or like around the back of the head as it comes out to the sides, you can see it's a lot darker where it would be in shadow. And I just like to neaten those edges up and give it more of a highlight just by using that white gel pen again around the edges of where the highlight would be. This is all pretty new to me, so a lot of this was experimenting. And then for her costume I used an LV1, a PL2 and a PL4. And I did the gloves off camera just because I was testing the colours first. Exactly the same method, starting with the lightest colour. I'm using the LV1, blocking in a flat colour, a flat layer even, and then I'm just going in with a PL2 to add in some shading before then moving back to the LV1 to blend them together, and then using the next one up, the PL4, to add in a bit of drop shadow and some darker areas again. And this isn't necessarily the best way to do it, this is just what I'm currently using, playing around with. And I would definitely recommend, before using your markers, if you're fairly new, definitely play around on a few scraps of paper to sort of find what colour schemes worked. I have a couple of sheets of paper where I've blended all different ones before choosing these colours that I've used. And now I'm using my Copic markers. I've got a C1, a C3 and a C5. These are just the Copic original ones, which mean they've got a bullet tip instead of the brush tip like these sketch ones do. Again, starting with the lightest, I'm just adding in a little bit of shading for where her abs would be, because you know she's obviously meant to be quite muscly, and then just darkening it up bit by bit. The Spectrum Noir markers are similar to the Copic in the sense of they also have the bullet tip nib and then the chisel tip, but I found that the Copic original bullet tip that I was using there was a lot harder, so you could get a lot more precision with them. And then once I was happy with this, I went back to my inking pens, a slightly thicker nib on this one, and I like to just go around the outline just to thicken that up. But this is more of a stylistic choice. I see a lot of people doing this and I really like the way this looks. It's not for everybody, some people don't like it, but I thought it looked pretty cool. And obviously if you are inking like this and using markers, make sure that the inking pen you're using can be used with markers, because some it will spread the pen a little bit and smudge it a bit. Right, so once I was happy with that, that's basically my figure done. And now I was just taking the TN3 and the TN4, some browns, and starting with the lighter one, the TN3, I'm just blocking in a really simple background, nothing exciting, but I thought these colours worked quite well together, the green and the brown. Again, tested that on a separate piece first. And I wanted it to look a little bit messy, but I also wanted to have a sort of neater white outline around the figure. So I've gone in with the bullet tip nib first, defining the edge, and then I go in with the chisel tip. And once I was happy with that, I only show a little bit on camera because it's the same process, but I switched to the TN4, which is a little bit darker, and just went round the edges a little bit just to give it a messy effect and put some lines in and things. And now I switched to my Faber-Castell pencil colours. This is optional, but I see a lot of people getting really good results with it. I was actually happy already with the blending that I'd got just from the markers, so I probably didn't need this, but I went over it with a green anyway. To be honest, I pressed really lightly and I don't think you'll be able to see any difference on camera, so I'm not going to show the full process of this bit, as I don't think it'll look any different to you guys. And some people get a really good result using pencil colours over the top of Copic markers, or any other marker, but I find if I press quite hard, it leaves like a waxy texture on the page which the light reflects off, and it stands out quite a bit, so I tried to use these quite sparingly. And that's it finished. I'm trying to turn it sideways so I can fit it on camera. And this is pretty much the first decent alcohol marker sketch that I've done, and it took me a really long time to do. I'm glad it's finished now, but I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks so much for watching.